My head's still basically in a daze as I return home from the hospital. I began my search for my phone and tried getting my house back in order at the same time. I found my phone on the floor next to the counter. Once plugged in, but now dead as the cord ripped from the port as it fell. I plugged it back in and sat it on the counter, moving on to clean while it charged. I wanted to get things somewhat back to normal before I had to go back to work again on Monday. Cleaning the house was difficult. My body was sore and tired. My brain felt like mush. My leg, mostly. All my wounds hurt. Still had trouble wrapping my head around the utter terror I felt on that last pill. The realization they weren't just hallucinations. Not knowing that. Realizing I was in actual, real danger when I thought that it was just the drugs. My mind wandered as I tried to clean. I began to wonder if the tingle and sensation of pure euphoria was worth how dangerous things had become. Even as I contemplated that, taking the next pill raged on in my mind. The absolute addiction of this drug had truly taken hold. I mean, how much could I withstand just for the synthetic happiness? I now knew that I wasn't just tripping, but that I was being taken to these alien planets, these other worlds. It didn't just give me a glimpse through a window. These pills truly sent me to other dimensions. I got in the house roughly half cleaned before I gave up. I went to check my phone and saw that it had been filled with missed calls and texts. The missed texts I received were the typical, "Hey, where are you? What are you doing, man? Haven't talked to you in a while." Stuff like that. What really caught my attention was a voicemail. It had been from my work. "Due to your recent unreliability, we'll no longer be needing your services and we'll be letting you go." What the hell? They gave me the rest of the week off. This is bullshit, I yelled out at my phone. Then I saw it. It had been just over a week since I took the third pill. This caused me to realize time moved differently when I left for those other worlds. Days had passed here on Earth when it had only been hours or maybe even a single day for me in those other worlds. Shit! Fuck! Goddamn! No! I began throwing a fit, insanely angry at myself and at my work and at my dealer. Oh yeah. I thought, remembering that I wanted to call my dealer. Called twice, then 3 times, then 4, straight to voicemail each time. On the 5th call, I decided to leave a message, but as I called again, a message saying the number had been disconnected resounded in my ear. "Damn it!" I yelled, throwing my phone across the room, watching it shatter against the wall. You know what? Fuck them. Fuck all of them. My work, my dealer, my friends. Fuck it all. Pure rage filled my body as I made my way to the bathroom to retrieve my pill bottle. Fuck all this. If they want to fire me, then fuck them. You know, I guess that means that I have no job, which means I have all the time in the world now, I yelled in anger to the emptiness of my house. I chugged another bottle of Gatorade and spilled the last 2 pills onto the table. I studied each one, finding the one labeled 4, and held it between my fingers, yelling out in anger at the pill. I thought to wait and calm myself before taking it. My brain spoke to me, interrupting my thoughts, booming through my head. Just take it. You'll feel better. It'll go better this time. It'll show those bastards for firing you. All of it nonsense, but my brain knew just what to say to make me refuse waiting any longer. I swallowed the pill and finished off another Gatorade. My living room still in a mess, but I no longer cared as I sat up on my couch, looking around at all the stuff that was still knocked over and hadn't been picked up. "Bring it on!" I yelled, as the miniature black hole began to form in front of me again. Red and gold particles floated at the edge this time. Sand? I thought to myself for the split second I had before the black orb exploded, engulfing me in darkness again. It was dry and hot. It was so very hot. As the black began to fade, I saw huge rock formations, red stone towering from the ground, red and brown sand surrounding me, and there were a few small bushes and cacti in sight that looked like I was on Earth. It was all so familiar, yet strange. As I looked out over all the rocks and desert, I couldn't help but think, is this Moab? Am I in Utah? What the hell? I got my answer very quickly when I felt the ground beneath my feet begin to rumble, and just in the distance I saw a massive creature erupt from the ground, shooting up towards the sky and slamming back down into the ground. It was like a whale breaching the surface of the ocean, except this was much more menacing and looked nothing like a whale. Too far for me to see any detail, but from this distance it looked like a giant snake or worm. Giant sandworms. Perfect, I thought, as a wave of instant regret hit me for taking the little green capsule. I looked towards the nearest large rock formation and began to run, or hobble, since I still had pain shooting through my leg, coming from the stitches. You're a fucking idiot. How is it supposed to show your boss for firing you? Why did you think this was a good idea? Why can't you just stop? My brain began to chastise me inside my own head as I moved towards the rocks. The massive worm creature breached the surface of the ground again, much closer this time, and I could make out some detail. The entire front of its body was one giant mouth. It had rows and rows of teeth that seemed to spiral into its throat. I could see no eyes of any sort, and it made no sounds. The only noise that came from the colossal creature were the sounds of the earth moving around it. I stood frozen, mid-stride, and watched in awe as the worm towered over me before it struck the ground and instantly began burying itself. The creature had to be at least 200 yards long, at least 20 or 30 yards in diameter. Its skin looked gray and worn like sun-bleached leather. I quickly snapped out of my daze and continued moving towards the big rock formation. The massive creature kept jumping from the ground closer and closer each time. I did my best to run, but the pain in my leg wouldn't allow it. I just climbed onto the large rock to the base of the large mesa as the beast exploded from the ground next to me. It showered me with dirt and sand as it arced through the air and then back headfirst into the ground. The rest of its long, leathery body followed. It moved through the ground as easily as a fish or eel in the ocean. As I looked up at the arch, flesh rushed past before disappearing back into the ground. I noticed the sun in this place, or suns, I should say. Binary suns, one huge, dark orange ball in the sky orbiting a second, smaller, brighter white star. A huge swirl of energy tore from the orange star, circling and feeding into the smaller white one. The sight would be truly beautiful if it hadn't also meant that this place would be insanely hot. After seeing the unique star duo in the sky, I found a small outcrop of rocks on the side of the mesa, then moved my way to it, begging for any form of shade or just a way to hide from the blazing heat. I scanned landscapes around me, not knowing what to do or where to go. I swear I saw a cluster of what looked like trees near the base of another red mesa that looked to be nearly a mile away. On my best day, in my peak of physical fitness, I could have run there in 7 or 8 minutes. In my current condition, my wounds scattered around my leg, weak from the heat and physically exhausted from the drugs and my lack of rest and recuperation between the pills. It made that distance seem worlds away. I thought if there were trees, then there might be water, and with that thought, I knew that regardless, I was going to have to get myself over there. I switched from laying to crouching under the small amount of shade I had, and just then the ground rumbled and the subterranean titan erupted from the ground in front of me again. I was going to have to wait until it either left or was far enough away that I could make my way to the other mesa without alerting it, so I waited. I waited for what seemed like hours. Sweat felt like it was pouring from my body and my thirst was growing rapidly. Finally, I saw the beast emerge from the ground, far off in the distance. Easily 3 times the distance from me to my target destination. This is my chance, I thought, as I climbed down from the rock and began my journey as quickly as I could move my weak and battered body. When I got to about the halfway point, the creature burst through the ground again from right next to the oasis I was traveling to. The creature arced towards me before hitting the ground again and disappearing underground. Fuck, I said, as I tried my best to pick up my pace while looking around for any sort of solid rock that I could climb onto for safety and attempt to wait again. There was nothing. I was completely out in the open and completely helpless. I screamed in terror as it burst from the ground underneath me. I fell into the creature's mouth, scraping past its teeth and falling into its digestive system, still alive, still in one piece. The acid from its throat burned my wounds and all my skin as I became coated in it. The pain was excruciating. I very quickly began to run out of air, being in the stomach of the beast. As panic began to fill my body, I began to scream, and then I felt a rush, and I could suddenly breathe again. The darkness of the creature's insides faded, and I was curled on my bathroom floor, still covered in the creature's stomach acid. It burned my flesh, and I pushed myself up and crawled into the shower. I screamed out in pain as I turned the water on and lay on the floor of my shower shaking. The acid slowly washed off my body and down the drain, and my flesh kept burning for nearly 2 hours, leaving me red and scarred. My lips chapped, my eyes completely bloodshot. I shut the water back off and heaved myself over the edge of the tub, flopping onto the floor. The impact of the fall shot searing pain through my body. I reached up and grabbed a towel off the shelf, wrapped it around me. The cloth stinging my skin, it felt like I was covered head to toe with a terrible sunburn, and then piled chemical burns on top of that. I crawled my way downstairs to my living room. The room still in ruin from the portal opening and now covered in dust. As well, I wondered how much time had passed here in reality, while I was on the other side. As curious as I was, I didn't bother trying to find my phone to check the date or time. I climbed onto my couch, still naked, except for the towel. With literally no energy left in my body and throbbing in pain, I dusted off a bottle of water that was within arm's reach, drank it down, and I slept. I woke up much later. How much later, I don't know, but I woke in pain. My muscles ached. My skin burned furiously. My head ached from dehydration from all the sweating. With one eye partially open, I glanced around. I found another bottle I could reach. Happened to be Gatorade, and I quickly drank it, and I fell back asleep. I woke up much later. How much later, I don't know, but I woke in pain. My body had been so weak, it was forcing me to sleep to recover. When I woke the second time, my headache had subsided, and I sat up on the couch. I finally looked around the room, and it looked like I hadn't been there in days or even weeks. After a few minutes of sitting, looking around the room, still slightly dazed and in pain, I stood. I walked over to my kitchen, knowing I didn't have the energy to cook. I knew I needed to eat something. Searching the fridge and pantry, I found very little in the way of quick and easy meals, so I settled in for Pop-Tarts and beef jerky. The flavor combination was disgusting, but I had to put something in my stomach. Every single move I made burned my flesh, and as soon as I finished eating, I dusted off another bottle of Gatorade from the floor and finished it in seconds. The thought of cleaning the house quickly flashed in my mind, but vanished just as quickly as it came. I just didn't care anymore. I laid back down on the couch and quickly fell back to sleep. When my eyes slowly opened, hours later, my house was dark. Night had fallen. My eyes focused on a little green glow light coming from a dusty pill bottle in my office table in front of me. My brain twitched as it comprehended what it was. Pain had ravaged my body as each pill before it had taken more and more away from me, but the sight of that little green light triggered my cravings once more. Soon I could barely move from the agony of my burnt skin, my tired muscles, and searing pain from my leg, but all I could think about was that little green pill. I lay motionless, one eye open, focused on the little light surrounded by darkness. I felt like it was calling out to me. There's just one left. Then you can be done with it. You don't have to waste it. It's sitting right there. Just take it. No, I cried out in response to my brain's coaxing. I can't, it hurts too much. But it's right there. Don't let it go to waste. You paid money for it. Ugh! I screamed as tears swelled in my eyes. You know you will eventually. Why wait? Just take it now. You need it. You'll feel so much better. As I lay on my couch, waging a war between my battered and beaten body and my addiction, eventually, my addiction won. I slowly reached out and knocked the pill bottle from the coffee table onto the floor next to me. As it hit the floor, the cap fell off and the capsule rattled out onto the hardwood next to the couch. I no longer had any drinks within arm's reach, so I put the pill on my tongue, and using what saliva I could conjure up, I swallowed it and closed my eyes. I didn't even want to watch as the portal opened this time. I screamed out as I felt the rush of the portal engulfing the room and sending me into the next world. I refused to open my eyes for a while as I felt the very air around me sting my already burnt skin. When I did finally open my eyes, they stung as I noticed I was surrounded by a yellow mist. I was lying on the solid, rocky ground of yet another foreign world. I was able to breathe, but it hurt. It was like sitting next to a pool or a hot tub that had too much chlorine added to it. I could only see maybe 10 or 15 feet in front of my face, and it hurt to even hold my eyes open. The only sound was that of rushing water in the distance, or maybe the wind, I couldn't tell which. From what I could see and hear, it seemed like I was surrounded by nothing. Nothing but a barren wasteland filled with a mildly toxic, but still breathable air. I could barely move without excruciating pain. All I had were my own thoughts as I felt my mind bend and fracture until it completely shattered. You're not going to get out of here. Fuck you, this will end. No, man. This is the end. No, the portal will suck me back through and it'll be over, I'll be home, and I can go to the hospital. Such a wonderful dream. But you're stuck here. The portal won't be coming back for you. Shut up! I'm not stuck! I yelled out. Then instantly realized I'm yelling out loud at my own brain. The sense of euphoria from the drug finally hit, and my pain subsided enough for me to get up off the ground. The only idea I could think of was to move forward, move towards the sound of water. But this was hard because the sound seemed like it was coming from all directions. So instead, I picked the direction I thought it sounded loudest and began to walk. My bare feet began to hurt as they padded along the hard, rocky ground. After what seemed like hours walking in the same direction, I finally came to a stream. It was silver. It smelled like sulfur. There was no way I could take a drink and survive. I looked around, and the only thing I could think to do was pick another direction and keep walking. So I did. As I walked, I noticed that I never came across anything. No rock formations, no hills, no valleys, cliffs, trees, animals, bugs, grass. Nothing. Nothing but flat, hard ground. I was surrounded by absolute nothingness. No life, just constant stinging pain. It was as close to whatever insane idea of true hell I could imagine. It felt like days upon days of walking and finding absolutely nothing before the drug's sense of euphoria wore off and I collapsed onto the ground as the pain came flooding back into my body. And again, all I could do was stare out into the yellow, stinging mist and wait. I waited for the portal to return and take me home, for the darkness to swallow me so I could open my eyes again and get help. I waited, realizing that my brain had been right. It wasn't coming. So now I lay here completely unable to escape the constant excruciating pain of all my wounds that won't heal. Unable to escape the stinging pain of the persistent fog and the argument raging in my own brain. I lay here waiting for the portal that isn't coming. My only solace is that in this place, I don't get hungry or thirsty. But that just leaves my thoughts to rage and scream through my mind undistracted. I'll remain here for eternity in constant pain. I force myself to walk, just searching for something, anything. And I never find it. So I'll remain here, just walking and staring into the mist. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video. Or listening to tonight's podcast on the podcast, if you're listening to that there at Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you can happen to listen to podcasts. I also want to tell you guys, if you look in the description, there's a lot of really cool things that you can always see down there, including links over to 2 Creepypasta books that I curated that are available now on Amazon. Check those out. The Creepypasta Collection Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great for people that like horror, or creepypastas, or people who listen to this podcast. And of course, I wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who checks out patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta and supports the show, keeps the light on, gives me treats for my now 2 cats, both Hylas and Hercules. Both of them are a handful. And especially a big thank you to Saha, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Mazikeen, Ken Lando Higuchi, Chompski, Nico kaeo, Tristain Pelton, Stephen VanHuss, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, G. Weevil 3, TheRedOakShieldVirus, Hades' Nephew, Carter Barenfanger, Dr. Strawberry, Jordan Wayne Deckard, Bradney Leipe, The Government Monitoring System, Ann Charron, rumblefox, AcidSystem, Mike Bullock, Raphael Rodriguez, Dan Sweet, Mad Marstomp, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Sean Mills, Brian Arce, Cryptic Nightmares, Shadow Morningstar, Somber Puppet, Brianna Wright, Someone You Love, Said the King 56, Bad Honey, S-Man, Kiri the Sloth, Patrick Schoolmeister, Thomas Burgett, Barbara Maceo, Bobby Carmen, Liam Newman, The Homeless Bird 93, Sky Harbor, Caleb Dougal, Last Blade Song, Eliminator 86, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, and Corey X Kenshin. A big thank you to all of you guys and everybody down there in the description. I really can't thank you guys enough for supporting the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody who listens, sweet dreams.